Herzlich willkommen, liebe Zuschauer, zu einer weiteren Folge von Im Auge des Bruders mit Scott Ritter, hier auf unserem YouTube-Kanal Gegenpol. Mein Name ist Monique Stegemann und in dieser Woche geht es um folgende Themen. Krieg im Nahen Osten. Welche Strategie verfolgt Israel bei seiner Bodenoffensive im Gazastreifen? Bundesverteidigungsminister Boris Pistorius will Deutschland wieder kriegstüchtig machen. Und Fettleibigkeit und verfehlte Rekrutierungsziele beim US-Militär. Können die USA überhaupt noch als Weltgendarm auftreten? Hallo Scott, schön, dass du dir wieder die Zeit genommen hast. Wie geht's dir?
Well, thank you.
Das freut mich. Scott, wie gewohnt, springen wir direkt in die erste Frage, denn der Krieg im Nahen Osten geht weiter. Israel rückt mit Panzern und Bodentruppen in den Gazastreifen vor. Wie analysierst du das Vorgehen der israelischen Armee? Was will sie erreichen und wie siehst du die massive US-Unterstützung für Israel und die gleichzeitige Aufrüstung der US-Stützpunkte in der Region?
Well, Israel's in a very difficult situation because, they suffered a humiliating defeat on October 7th. And there are both military and political reasons behind their current offensive into Gaza. Militarily, Israel has tasked itself with the job of defeating Hamas's military capability so that an event like October 7th will never happen again. And this has a political dimension too, because the leadership that failed the Israeli people on October 7th is still in power today. Benjamin Netanyahu was the prime minister of a government that allowed Hamas to attack, that enabled Hamas to attack. The heads of the military, the heads of intelligence failed to detect the Hamas preparations and failed to have sufficient military power on hand to repel this. And these are all the same people now who are screaming at the top of their lungs that they have to go into Gaza in order to defeat Hamas. So there's a political aspect to this as well, because what Israel is asking of itself is almost a mission impossible. The Israeli ground incursions so far have just tickled the edge of the Hamas defenses. And as they penetrate deeper, they are going to suffer more casualties, and these casualties will become crippling in nature. Hamas, we don't know the extent to which Israel's bombing campaign has impacted Hamas, but we do know that Hamas had planned for this in advance, and that Hamas's tunnel network is reinforced, it's deep, and it should be able to withstand most, if not all, of the bombardment that Israel has subjected it to, which means that, Hamas still retains considerable military capabilities that Israel are going to find increasingly, difficult, if not impossible, to overcome. The other danger in this is, in order to continue to press forward, Israel is going to have to increase the scope and scale of the violence that's already being inflicted on the Palestinian people. We saw an attack yesterday against a refugee camp, the Jabaria refugee camp, ostensibly to kill a single Hamas leader. They've sacrificed hundreds of Palestinians. This is an equation that's unacceptable everywhere in the world. There's no nation on the planet except Israel who says, oh, that's okay, that's a good trade. So Israel's alienating the world and creating the real possibility for the intervention of outside parties. We've already seen the Houthi rebels in Yemen start firing missiles against Israel. On Friday, Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, is going to give an address which could very well be a declaration of war against Israel, in which case Israel is in deep trouble. So I think the Israelis have gotten themselves into a bind here, boxed themselves into a corner where no matter which way they turn, they're going to be looking military disaster in the face. The United States has said that we will be there for Israel, but we're already paying a price. Because of our support for Israel, we've been linked to Israel, and therefore we are being subjected to attacks in Syria and Iraq. and these attacks will continue. We do not have the ability to prevent the various militia groups in Syria and Iraq from attacking our bases. And, while we can retaliate, all we do is further enrage these forces. And again, the United States could very well be looking strategic defeat in the face, where we may be compelled to withdraw from Syria and Iraq because we can no longer sustain our forces there. And what we're seeing here is that Israel's overreaction to the horrific events of October 7th have positioned both Israel and the United States to suffer strategic defeats in the Middle East that'll have repercussions for years to come.
Vergangenes Wochenende tauchte in den israelischen Medien ein angeblich geleaktes Geheimdienstdokument auf. Demnach solle Israel planen, die gesamte Bevölkerung des Gazastreifens schrittweise zunächst in den Süden Gazas zu vertreiben und dann nach Ägypten auf die Sinai-Halbinsel umzusiedeln. Die Authentizität des Dokuments ist umstritten. In kritischen israelischen Medien wird unter anderem diskutiert, ob es sich womöglich um einen Testballon handelt, um die Stimmung der israelischen Bevölkerung zu dem Vorhaben zu testen. Was sagst du dazu? Und wenn es tatsächlich authentisch ist, lässt sich so ein Vorhaben überhaupt bewältigen? Was müsste Israel tun, um 2 Millionen Menschen aus dem Gazastreifen zu vertreiben?
Well, I'm in no position to speak to the authenticity of the document. I'm a prisoner to the same source as everybody else is, and I've been following the debate about it. I personally think it's a trial balloon, something that has been released to gauge not just Israeli domestic support, but international reaction. It's curious how the more Israel progresses in terms of these extreme policies towards the Palestinians, the more they start to take on the characteristic of Nazi Germany. I mean, the compelled expulsion of millions of people, and it's a war crime. You can't do it, but Israel's floating a balloon. It's like me, writing a letter to the police. Hey, what would you think if I just decided to go out and do a mass shooting? How do you feel about that? Well, Scott, that would be a crime, and you have us a little worried about talking about it. Of course I do, because it's criminal to even think such thoughts. Here, Israel's saying, what if we just push 2 million people out of Gaza? What do you think? It's a crime against humanity. It's a war crime. So that tells you that something's fundamentally wrong with Israel as it's currently constructed, because to even think that you can get away with floating a trial balloon of this nature implies that there's not too much sound thinking taking place in Israel today when it comes to dealing with the Palestinians and Hamas. It shows the level of desperation that has gripped the Israeli people and the Israeli body politic today.
Lass uns nochmal über die Unterstützung Israels durch die USA sprechen. Kann Israel mit Hilfe der USA die Hamas besiegen?
To say defeating Hamas, what does that mean? To kill every Hamas fighter that's physically present in Gaza? Sure, why not? I mean, if you have the time and you have an infinite supply of weaponry and you're willing to take the casualties, yeah, you can accomplish that. But Hamas is more than just a physical, military structure. It's an ideology of resistance, and Israel will never defeat that. Hamas ideology has already taken root around the world. People aren't just having pro-Palestinian rallies, they're having pro-Hamas rallies. Hamas has won the political fight, the public relations fight. So this is already a strategic defeat for Israel. And understand this, that no matter where these Palestinians who are in Gaza end up, whether they're shoved out of Gaza or they stay in Gaza, they will provide a perpetual source of recruitment for future military Hamas organizational structures. So, Israel cannot defeat Hamas. Just straight up statement of fact.